Well, hello everybody. So, oh, look at that. I discovered something to make life so much easier. I hated standing by the door. Hello, 1 minute late. Hello, 2 minutes late. Though I have to say, in another life, I might come back as a doorman. When it's the only job, it looks so cool to me. Anyway, so I want to tell you what we have in store. Obviously, I've got some tech stuff because that's the kind of semester it is. But before I get to that particular topic, I want to say something about Photoshop and all the stuff we just did, what we're about to do. So we're coming out of the exclusively web design part of the class. Um, that doesn't mean that it's not returning. It is going to return, but right now that module of the class is over. It's one of the larger ones too, HTML, CSS. So just the last class, we touched on Photoshop in the context of web design. How do you change the size of an image to get it ready for a website? I could just as easily have used Photoshop for any number of examples. How would an illustrator working for children's books use Photoshop? What would they need to do? How would someone working at a newspaper, that's something that I did, by the way, at length, and I was the Photoshop guy there. What is Photoshop like at a newspaper? I'm talking about physical newspaper, by the way. So Photoshop has got its role in online media, websites most notably, but also movies and also animation. And of course, it's got its roots deeply set in old-fashioned print media, magazines and prints and magazines and books primarily, as well as catalogs that you get in the mail, all of that. Lots and lots of Photoshop. I don't know about you, but we get like 100 clothing catalogs here in a season. Endless clothing catalogs. And on any one page, there's a dozen photos. That means whoever's doing Photoshop for that one catalog is handling hundreds of photos just for one issue of the catalog. So it's huge. So one thing that I want to say is, boy, this class is bigger than usual. Are there like new people in here? Must say, this class is impossible if you're first starting today. If anyone is brand new, somehow the school let you in this late, you're going to see my email address in minutes. It is too late. I would highly recommend that you withdraw. You know, I've taught way too much. There's very unlikely that you could pass this class. There is stuff on video, so if anyone's in that strange situation, you're going to have to make sure to write me right away. Surely at the end of the class, so I could address it and see if there's what's possible for you. Class does seem larger. Okay, back to Photoshop. So of all the things I'm going to teach this semester, the thing that's probably most popular, most used, that's absolutely everywhere is Photoshop. And the main reason is Adobe created it years ago, along with everything else, but very quickly it became the norm for every photo in media to go through Photoshop first. That basically means it's hardly ever that someone takes a picture and goes right to the magazine. No, in Photoshop, not only will they change its size, which we started to explore, but they change its color. They fix any damage. Does the person have a scratch that they don't want? You know, are we going to change their eye color? Are we going to add a hat? You know, are we going to put them in outer space? So it goes from everything from practical sizing and preparing the right format for a video. Do we want a JPEG? Since you all know what a JPEG is. For a video, do we want something else? So that's Photoshop stuff. To correcting and enhancement. Correcting and enhancement. So correcting means it didn't go well when it was shot with the camera. You know, the lights were wrong or something else went wrong, and we're going to correct it, fix it. Enhancement means like it sounds. We're going to make it more beautiful. You know, and you know, we all know already by now when you're looking at some model who looks beautiful in a magazine that they may be very beautiful, but also there was a Photoshop master behind the scenes. So for all of those things, Photoshop, Photoshop, Photoshop. But last and not least, one of my favorite, and we're going to start today actually, is what's called montage. Now you might remember collage because almost everyone did some when they were a kid. Some people like me still does it as an adult. But collage was when you'd cut out pieces of pictures and glue them down, make your own artwork out of glued pictures. Collage and montage are very similar, but here's the basic difference. Usually if someone says montage, they're trying to make something realistic. In fact, it might be so realistic that you can't even tell. I did some crazy things with photos and I have some mixed feelings about years later, where you really could not tell from the photo that I'd faked stuff. You know, I never did it for evil. I just did it for entertainment. But still, you know, in a collage, you always know it's collage. That could be the fun of it. You know, impossible things glued together. But in montage, we usually want to make it believable. We're going to do some light montage today as a way to get to know how you'd fix the different elements so they look their best, how you'd put them together into a somewhat realistic environment. And that's where we want to go. Let me just add, though, in a little while, and I don't have the dates in front of me, we are going to be heading into the midterm, which happens sooner than you think, a couple of weeks tops, which is going to be web-based stuff. So I'm going to stop right between Photoshop and the midterm and do a review. You know, this is what the midterm is going to be like, and here's a little reminder about HTML and CSS. So we'll deal with that when we get there. The only reason, one of the reasons why I'm doing it in this order is I'd like you to have Photoshop power before the midterm, because even though it's going to be a website, you may want to take advantage of photography beyond the minimum, and you're going to need some Photoshop by then. All right, I want to get over the tech stuff. I always give you a tech update, and I touch base with people who are having trouble getting the software to run. I'd asked last class, and before that, but last class with a fever, for anyone who cannot get into Adobe's Creative Cloud products to send me an email. So I only heard from 3 people, which basically means that if you didn't reach out to me, you told me that you're good. And I'm not going to torture anyone. I'm going to assume that that's exactly what everybody meant. So I have to make sure to take care of those 3 people without losing everybody else. So this is what I want to say. Well, Anne, you took care of yourself, right? She went with remote access early. I'm going to probably ask Anne some questions along the way since she put her foot in that water first. So I just want to say real quickly, I know I've repeated this many times, but there's a chance that when it comes October 1st, that we're all going to do remote access, right? So I wrote my head of the department this morning to ask if that's what he's seeing, if it still looks that way. So if that's the case, we're all going to learn. And then I'm really going to ask Anne. She may be the teacher for a little while because she got there first. The thing about it, and Chris and Kevin particularly, it might be an option for you guys also. She got frustrated fighting with Adobe to get the free account. So instead, she decided to use one of the school's computers. That's what remote access is, right? From your house, you're using a school computer. It's a weird world, right? But that's what it is. And this way, with some luck, you use the software there. The thing that I've been exploring is I thought you'd still have to log into Adobe, right? But Anne got into that stuff, right?
You do have to yeah, you do have to log in, but for me it works.
So for you, the same login that wouldn't work on your computer did work on their computer. So I told my boss I was going to verify that with you today. So
Yeah, it's very strange. I want to try on someone else's computer to see if it's just like
something up with your computer. That's a good idea. That's a good idea, but that's new. That's the first time I've heard that. That's brand new, which is actually a weird kind of good news, I think. That basically means like Chris and Kevin, you had trouble getting in last week, that in remote access, your login would probably work. It worked for Anne. So is there some kind of blocks on your computer that would stop it? I don't know. Guys, listen, I have to be quick about this stuff, and I apologize to those of you who are inconvenienced by it. I really, really do. You could see in a big crowd, I always have to juggle individual problems together with the whole culture of the class. So this is what I've got in store that I do want to mention to everybody, and I'm going to switch to the to screen sharing in a minute and get a look at my handout. Kevin, Chris, I am I want to ask you both, did either of you write the service desk about your problem getting into Adobe? Chris, you already told me that you're planning on doing it later today. So I remember he let me know by email. Kevin, what about you? Did you reach out to the service desk yet?
Yeah, I already sent the email to the service desk, and they replied to me saying that the problem was like resolved, but what happened was that I was, well, first, like, it started off like on the website. I would try to like download the Creative Cloud app or the Photoshop app, and from the website it said I need access. Now when I click the download option, it opens up a desktop app for Creative Cloud,
Okay.
and so now it opens like a separate window, and it says you do not have access to these apps. And I'm going to send you the screenshot right
Please.
in a couple minutes.
So that's exactly what happened to Anne, right? You got the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it
So
said you may need for permission, something like that. But I still don't have permission.
at
And
home,
I did, no, yeah, at home. So I
right?
did reach the service desk and they answered yesterday, but it was like a weird, maybe I'll show you after class or something. It
That'd be
says
great.
like, please
I would
somebody
like that.
help this student. And so I was like, I don't think that's meant for me, but you mean things aren't moving on? I don't know. I'll show you after class.
Oh my God, it's exhausting, and we're getting closer. And you know, here's the thing that bothers me. And everybody, listen. You know, consider yourself lucky when everything works, right? Don't we? So I just want to say to the three of you, but also to everybody. So, you know, like I said, I'm thinking we're probably all going to have to switch to remote access at some point because except for those of you who actually bought the subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud, you know, you'll be covered for the whole semester. But if you don't want to do that, right? By the way, the 1 week free trial is like a trick. You know, after now, all of a sudden after 7 days they start to charge you. So that wasn't the way it worked for years. That's brand new. So that doesn't, it makes me want to tell people not to use that one. You want the one through the school. But the thing is, if we're all going to have it turned off, we're all going to have to switch to another method. So I'm trying to weigh how much time we give this. So this is what's on my mind lately. And right now I'm addressing mostly Kevin and Chris. We're still trying to use their own computers and get into Adobe, right? If we can't get proper answers from the service link that I gave you or from my boss, I'm going to ask you both to switch into remote access. You're going to have to follow those instructions. Look, it's a whole other road. You'll be ahead of the rest of the class. So I'm going to tell everyone to do that probably in a couple of weeks, and that might solve it. I'm not sure you want to do it during my class or not. I'm going to have to let you use your own judgment, whether you want to take notes today or that. Guys, not to be overwhelming with 100 side notes, but it occurred to me today that for a few weeks, there is one other possibility, which is to use something called GIMP. I don't know if any of you heard of GIMP, right? So I've only used GIMP once or twice because a student convinced me to try it. And they said, this is the best imitation Photoshop on the internet, and it's free. And so I loaded it one day just to see. And I was like really kind of shocked at how much this thing can do that Photoshop can do. And I've been putting off mentioning it because I can't troubleshoot it. You know, I'm a Photoshop expert. I'm not a GIMP expert. But that is an option. So I just wanted to show you guys something. Let me screen share for a minute for anyone who's interested. And then I got to move into a different thing. I opened it up. This is the link. This is what it's called, GIMP. And it works on Mac and Windows, I'm pretty sure. It is good for cropping and resizing and changing colors and all the basics. But one might have to look around for those features based on what I'm showing in Photoshop. I cannot claim to know every program in the world. But I do know that if I was forced to give up Photoshop, this is probably where I would go. And it's free for everybody. So that's an option. Look, I got to wrap this part of the subject up. So this is what we're going to do. In a couple minutes, I'm going to start with the Photoshop part of this show, right? Kevin, Chris, you guys could watch and take notes. That's probably what I would do. you know, afterwards figure out if you want to try remote access or if you want to wait to get more information back from the service desk or from me. I'm going to ask those of you who offered to send me those screenshots, and Kevin especially, Chris, if you've got any, send them to me, because my boss, I don't know how he does it because he's got like 1,000 people underneath him. He actually looks at everything and answers thoughtfully and points us in the right direction. So in short, I'm going to try to tackle the Adobe problem. It may not matter in a couple weeks, especially if it does prove out that remote access works for everyone, because that's what I'm going to probably start doing. Last but not least, for anyone who wants a backup plan for Photoshop alone, GIMP. This is getting tiring. Does anybody have any questions about any of that before we move forward, or questions about anything at all that I might be able to answer in the realm of the arts, hopefully? Yes, Chris.
So should we use this instead of Photoshop, or it doesn't matter?
So, you know, basically, I'm giving you too many choices is what's going on, Chris. And you know what you're good for? You always cut through all my detours and ask the most blunt question, which I appreciate. I can't answer that because I'm not a GIMP expert. I know it will do everything Photoshop does, but will you be able to find the same feature in GIMP or not? I don't know, but here's more good news. You know, there's ways to avoid it all the way through the midterm. Right after this next week or two on Photoshop, the midterm, you could use Photoshop, but you don't have to. After that, we're doing sound, and that program's free for everybody. So we're going to have a little while, we're going to take an Adobe break pretty soon. So in the meantime, Photoshop's too cool to skip. So it's not my perfect solution. Short, you could try GIMP. That's all I could really say about that. The rest, I'm going to try to get more answers for us as we move forward. For now, I'm going to ask you to take notes, stay as conscious as you can, and such is life. Anybody else have any questions for me? In this weird semester, any question is a good one. All right, so let me get back to it. I want to get my handout out. And I would like to do less and less of this kind of stuff going forward and more of the juicy stuff. So you notice this class, I put the download option first to remind people that this is what we're going to do for a while. We're going to need assets, parts. So I didn't download my assets. Some of you did it from the home page. Some might have done it from here. If you haven't done it yet, please click this. I'm in Chrome, so a little arrow pointed down for a minute to the lower left corner, and I'm waiting for it to load. Now, I know that on a Mac, if I click on the name of that Class 7 asset zip, it will unzip it and take me into downloads. On Windows, I would prefer you go to downloads yourself and find it. You may be able to do that from this little arrow also on Windows. You could do show in Finder or whatever equivalent Windows says. But since I'm on a Mac, I'm going to do it a little quicker. Just click right on the name. Either way, you got to get to downloads on your computer. Now on a Mac, when I clicked it, it unzipped the zip. It left it there. I could throw this out if I want. And this is what it looks like unzipped. It's just a folder. And this is what I want today. Now, I just want to repeat from last class, and I actually helped someone out a little bit, and even though his computer's all in Spanish, that was a bit of an adventure. If you're on Windows, I would really prefer that you right-click the zip. You'll get a menu, but yours will say, hopefully, extract all. It might say extract to folder. I think that's just as good. Basically, we want everything in the zip taken out once and for all, so you don't need the zip at all. You don't want to be working with it. You want to be able to forget it. Extract means just that. I'm sorry, guys, you know, Windows, Mac, it's different. In the classroom, it's all Mac, which is a little unfair because people go home and things look a little differently. Windows people, if you've extracted the zip, you'll probably see this folder, I hope, or just the parts. If you see something that says _Mac, you could throw that out. That's just some extra junk. So I'm hoping you all got a Class 7 assets folder. All right, one more thing about that folder. Where you put it is indeed up to you. right? So if you have to ignore me, you can. But I would like to say professionals don't leave anything in the downloads folder. You know, that's just like going to the post office, but you take your stuff home. So where do you want to put that folder? That's really up to you. I want to add something new. With the web, it was really critical you could get in and out of that folder all the time, even check times to make sure your files are updating, see if the images folder is in there. But with Photoshop, it's not as critical. You know, we're going to need to open stuff, so I want you to find the folder. But honestly, there's no critical behavior that's going to change if you leave it in downloads for Photoshop alone. It's not folder dependent. But this is what I'm going to do. I never work in downloads. So I'm going to take the uncompressed, the extracted, the unzipped folder, and I'm going to put it on my desktop by dragging it over this over here. And then I'm going to go to the desktop to find it. So I drag it just because I'm used to this. I don't like working in downloads, and I'm going to drop it there. I could have dropped it in documents, or maybe I have a BMCC folder. Now I'm going to go to the desktop this way. You know, I'm sure if I look around back here, I'll find it. There it is, sitting on my desktop way on the right. But I find it easier than moving everything around. Once I moved it, I'll click the desktop link. And here it is. Can you open that folder? I want to try something in front of you guys, and I would like anyone who's using Windows to tell me if this also works for you. On a Mac, if I click the first one and press my space bar, I get a preview. I can even click the down arrow and look at everything in the folder in preview. When I'm done previewing, I hit the space bar again. Does that work like that on Windows? No? So you might need a different way. If you double click it, it might open in something else. If you've got any other way you like, I'm just talking about previewing. To be honest.
Yeah, it works when you double click it for Windows.
And what does it open in?
It just
To show it to you.
opens in Photos, at least for me on Windows.
Yeah, same here.
Same for you?
For
So
me,
the
it's
only-
different.
And I'm okay with that. You know, on a Mac, there's this thing called preview that a lot of people will use. You double click and things will open preview. My only obstacle is we're not going to use those programs for anything but looking, right? For any heavy duty work, we're definitely going to use Photoshop unless any of you try GIMP. All right, I want to show you something though. I've got this image here called Stage in Park, right? And that's exactly what it is. And we're going to put something on stage. The next image is this duck, and this duck, believe it or not, is going to be on stage. I included one extra image for anyone who bravely wanted to see if they could put the sign on stage or in front of stage. But right now we're going to focus on the first two. I do need to tell you something though. If you're working professionally in any design area, you want to know how big your original is. So on a Mac, what people usually do is they click it once and then they do Command-I to open this up. They could also click it and go to View. I'm looking for Get Info, it's called. It's the same as Command-I, or is it Windows? It's around here. I would definitely recommend Command-I. If you're on Windows, I would right-click and choose Properties to see what the properties are. Well, the big property is how big is it? So I want to show you something about this one. It's always measured in pixels. Now this one's 4,000 pixels wide. That is really big. You know, that's 4 times as big as most websites. It's really big. Is that bad? No, it's actually good. Because it's so big, I could use it at any smaller size that I want. Because it's okay to take a big picture and make it small. But it's not okay to take a small one and make it big because it gets blurry and ugly. So the first thing I want you to know in Photoshop is start with the biggest pictures you can get. I'm going to close this up. All right. I'd like for everybody to open Photoshop if you have it. I'd like you to find it and open it. If you don't have it, be prepared to take notes. Remember, hey guys, are you seeing evidence that I'm recording now? That feature's been hiding on my computer.
Yep.
Great. So I am in Photoshop. It's got a splash page. This is called, I never use the splash page. You could leave it out if you want, or you could click the little red button in the top left, because we're going to use the file menu instead. You notice the menus are the same, very similar to other menus you've seen, even in Sublime, but the first menu here says Photoshop, right? So whatever program you're in sort of rules the menus. I want to go to the next one, File, and do File menu, Open. So what we're doing is the client has delivered 3 photos to us, and we're starting with 1, so we want to open it. So I did File menu, Open. Now you have to remember where your folder is. So since I put mine on the desktop, from the Open window, I'm going to get there by clicking Desktop on the left, and then I see Class 7 assets right there. So I'm just going to double click it to open that. And sure enough, I'm in, which means when I come back for the other photos, it'll be easier. Photoshop's going to remember. I want you to open the one called Stage in Park. I want to say quickly to anybody in here who has Photoshop experience, each version of Photoshop behaves just a little differently. So some of them you could drag and drop a photo right into Photoshop, right? But some of them resize it without telling you when it does that. And that's a problem. So in my class, I'm going to avoid anything that I can't bank on, completely. File menu open will always work, so I'm going to stick with that. Now, if your rulers are not on, we want to go to the View menu to turn them on. Unless you like shortcuts, Command R or Control R works in almost every program. Almost. Does work in Photoshop. Thing is, if it doesn't, you go to the View menu and just find rulers. All right, the next thing I want to say is, well, listen, folks, a lot of you have good reasons to master Photoshop from different fields. So I want to give you some sound advice because I'm a real multimedia guy, In other words, I really do work in a variety of fields. So there's few things that are constant. Know what kind of measurement your field uses. So if you're a web designer or you make movies or animations, you work in pixels. If you work on a newspaper or a magazine, in other words, print, you work in inches. This is a multimedia class, so we're focusing on the screen, pixels. So what I'm trying to say is, if you come up to the ruler, you could control click or right click to see what the choices are. You know what's funny? I taught Illustrator this morning. It had feet on this menu and yards. They're expecting people to do big stuff in Illustrator. I wonder why Photoshop doesn't have those options. But you want to be in pixels. So you go right up to the ruler, you either right click it or control click and choose pixels. So if you look at this, it's verifying what I showed you before. The picture's just about 4,000 pixels wide. What would you want to do if you wanted to make it smaller? Okay. So a common width online are big images around 1,000 pixels wide. I don't want to make a big speech why, but in short, almost everyone's screen is at least 1,000 pixels wide. A lot of your screens are much bigger, but everybody's at least 1,000 pixels wide, not your phone, your computer. So that's become a norm for large pictures. So we're going to see if we can get this down to 1,000 pixels. Guys, listen, I am very much generalizing because that's a detailed subject of how sizing works. We're just getting it off the ground. All right, there's 2 ways to resize. I want to visit both. Could everyone join me? If you look up top, there's a bunch of menus, and I hope you could see it. I notice sometimes they're cut off on the video. I'm looking for the image menu. And I want you to come down to image size, not canvas size, image size. This is one of the most popular features in Photoshop. And it's telling you the width of this document for print. Give me 1 second, let me just see if that's important. Nope. In print, and why do I say that? Do you see this little area that says resolution? 300 says pixels per inch is what this means. Sometimes that'll say dots per inch. That literally means how much ink is in 1 inch, or how many pixels is in 1 inch. 300 is for print, it's not for the internet. But let's say you wanted to stay in print. I want you to see what would happen if you change that width to say 10 inches. What's interesting is it did change size, but it went up to 400 dots per inch, which you never need. So I don't really like the way that went. If you're looking at the same thing as me, hold down Option or Alt. Notice the cancel key changes to reset. Option or Alt. I'm going to reset it. So if I wanted to stay in my print resolution, I would click Resample first, and then change the width to 10. So what's interesting about that, it kept the number of dots per inch, but it made a smaller document for my newspaper, for my magazine. And if you look way up top, you could tell the file size got a lot smaller too. It's about 20 megabytes now. It was over 34, but it's a smaller document. The thing is, I want to focus on something more useful for all of us, especially coming out of web design. We'll be doing video. I want to show you the way I might deal with this for screen-based media. Could you click cancel? So you're at your original size again. And I want to resort to this tool over here. This crop tool we were using the other day. Hang on a second, I just want to clear this up. This tool, and if you're having a hard time finding it, just press the letter C, and it should take you to this little crop tool here. I want to just quickly get a peek at my chats. I'm trying to be a little more chat aware.
Professor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I'm having a little bit of a trouble right now.
Okay.
I don't know what could now complete your request because it only works with OpenGL enable document windows.
Could you repeat all that, Emily? You cut out and I didn't hear you.
It says could not complete your request because it only works with OpenGL enable document windows. I don't know.
Really? So you're on Windows and you're in Photoshop.
Yes.
And what request would it refuse? Did it let you open the picture or no?
Yeah, the picture is open, but I don't know why it's not working for me. Nothing.
Okay. Folks, I'm going to stop screen sharing for a minute. All right. And Emily, because other people are going to bump into this problem, right? So I'm going to try to use this opportunity to see what's what if possible. I want you to click screen share, the share screen green button. It's going to give you some choices. I want you to choose screen because you're on Windows. That would be the next choice. So click share screen, then screen.
Yes, yet?
Not yet. It looks like it's about to. It says that you started screen sharing, but did you choose screen? Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Oh, what happened? I just lost it. Oh, there we go. Good. I see. Cannot complete your request because it only works with OpenGL enabled document window. Can you click OK? Now, what did you do that made that open?
I just click on the picture.
All right, click OK. I want to do a quick thing. Could you go to the left? And I want you to find the crop tool. If it's not there, could you press the letter C? I see, and it's already causing us trouble. All right. Look, Emily, we need to try something together. Could you go to the File menu?
Yes.
Click that. Give me a second. Don't race anywhere. Stay in the File menu for a moment, please. 1 second. I'm looking for certain kinds of preference. It's very different on Windows. All right, let's go to the Edit menu right next to it. This menu doesn't have what I want. Can you go to the Edit menu? All right. You know what, actually, can you just, all the way on the left of the menus, to the left of File, there's a PS icon. Can you click that and see if it gives you a menu?
This one?
Yeah, but it's not giving me what I want either. Guys, I apologize. Could you click on File one more time? Sorry about that. One more time. Hang on, just stop. Maybe I'm not looking close enough. I have a hunch that I know what this is, but the preferences are not in the same location. All right, Edit menu one more time. Can you go way to the bottom of that menu, all the way down there to see if there's more? Keep going if possible. Aha, there we go. Can you go to preferences? All right, stop here for a minute. General. Give me 1 minute. Can you go up to performance?
Performance
Yeah, keep going. You'll see it. Just up.
on this one.
There you go. That one. Click that. All right. I'm looking for anything about WebGL and graphics processing. Huh. We're going to come back in a minute. Can you notice on the left, there's a bunch of options all the way on the left. Could you click the one that says scratch disks?
This one.
Yep. All right, that's not it. I want you to go up a few, click the one that says, let's see, just give me a second here. File handling. It's just above, there we go. Give me a second. All right, I'm gonna try only one thing with you, right? And if that doesn't work, I'll tell you what our plan B is gonna be. I want you to go back to the one that says performance. Right, so it's file handling, that one, exactly. And you'll see there's something that says use graphics processor. Now this is just a gamble. I want you to uncheck it.
This one.
Yeah, you might have to come back and turn it back on. I want to try this. Click OK. All right, now I want to see if we can get the crop tool. Can you press the letter C and see if that goes anywhere? It's not helping, huh? All right.
No, it says this is the slice tool.
Yeah, okay. Can you press on that tool for a minute? Just press on the slice tool right on the toolbar. Keep your mouse down. Press right on it. Go back to the slice tool on the toolbar. Press on it and keep the mouse down. You see the crop tool? Press on, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, looks like we fixed it. It's working. Let me know if it stops working.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
You're welcome. Can you stop the screen sharing?
Sure.
That was a weird one, but luckily I have seen that once before. One of the things that's getting complicated is not only is it not all Mac, but it's different kinds of computer and different types of Windows. And it's like, oh my God. But I teach around the clock, so I bump into almost every problem at some point. All right, folks, I want to come back to that crop tool. Does anyone else need help finding it? Please don't be shy. That's easy enough. You have the crop tool? I'm going to assume that you mean it. All right, then. Okay, I'm going to screen share again. All right, so the crop tool. Let's go over this tool, and I want to tell you what we're going to do with it. This is the best tool for changing width and height visually, as well as changing the number of dots per inch. Now, we saw 300 dots per inch on the original. It's safe to lower that number. Why would we do that? Well, pictures on the internet are 72 dots per inch. So please join me on these few steps. You got the crop tool, and as soon as you click it, this bar shows up on the top of Photoshop. Right? It's got a little symbol of the crop tool, and next to it, it has a menu that by default usually says ratio. Now, the last time I saw you guys, I asked you all to switch to width by height by resolution. So I'm going to ask you to do that again. If you don't see it, it's because you're in the wrong tool. You'll only see that option if you have the crop tool selected. Then you change this from ratio to the next one down, which is the best one, width by height by resolution. Now, I need to do one quick thing for a minute. 1 second there. All right. All right, there we go. I just had to take a quick screenshot before I forget. All right, width by hyperresolution lets you put a width in here and a height in here. Now we're working in pixels. We know the original is 1,000 pixels wide, but I would like the width to be 1,000 pixels. So once you change this menu, come to this box and type 1,000. Be very careful with those zeros, okay? 1,000 only, px. If you accidentally leave that out, it might think you meant inches, and it's going to be a tremendous document. And it'll crash your computer. I want you to go to the next box, and I'd like you to try 700px. Now, I like that proportion. It looks good. It's a landscape proportion, right? And it would fit on most web pages rather neatly. But I want you to go to the next box and type in 72. Now, this is new. I know the original is 300 pixels in each inch, and that's great for print, but it's not good for the internet. So we're typing in 72 to change it. Now here's where it gets interesting. If you grab the corner of that box, and this, we've done a little bit of this once before. If you grab the corner of the box, right next to it, it's telling you how big the part is that you're choosing. Now the truth of it is, you don't really care, because when we're done, it's going to make it the size you asked for, 1,000 by 700. The only reason we care a little is if you pick an area that's underneath the size you're asking for. So let's call that the target size. If you take a part that's smaller than the target size, so admittedly that's very small, that's under 1,000, I'm going to get a blurry picture. I keep my eye on those numbers just to make sure I never go under the size that I'm asking for. Anything larger is perfect. Big, medium, doesn't matter, as long as it's not too small. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag mine out very large, because I'd like a lot of it. And if you wanted, you'd be able to press inside to move it around before you accept that size. But frankly, I really want that thing in the middle, so I'm going to leave it. So you change your numbers, 1,000 px, height 700 px, resolution, which is dots per inch, 72. And you could do all of that only because you changed this menu in the crop tool. All right, when you like it, hit return. If it doesn't work, hit return again. Now I know that looks really small because Photoshop kind of zoomed out in a strange way. And I want to show you something about that before we go further. In the bottom left, it says 50% on mine. So it's not showing me the full size image. There's a couple ways to fix it. Most people go to the view menu and they'll choose an option from here. I happen to like two shortcuts. Command 0, not Command O, is my favorite. Fit on screen. That means whatever screen I'm on, I could tell it to show me the whole image. Fit on screen. If you don't like that approach, right? Command 0, Control 0, or just going to the view menu. You could zoom in and out with Command minus by bits at a time, or Command plus to make it larger. I want to make sure you could see the whole image. I'd like you to look at your ruler and notice this image is a different size no matter what you've zoomed in. It's the size you just asked for. It's now 1,000 pixels wide by 700 tall. Thing is, I want to do something more interesting because I need something creative at this point. Too much nerdy stuff, really, right? So I want to talk to you about something that I'll do on every single Photoshop image. And I have to say, one thing I can lay a claim to is I've used a lot of images because I was in news and I was the Photoshop guy. So I want to say a little bit about this next feature. We want the darks to be perfect. We want the midtones to be perfect. And we want the lights to be perfect. So in other words, this picture might not have the right contrast of darks and lights. Could you join me by doing this? Command L if you're on a Mac, or Control L if you're on Windows. And this will open up So I'm going to come back inside here. Command L. If you happen to be stuck in the crop tool for any reason, just click a different tool to get out, like this one on top. We want just Command L. You might have noticed, depending on the kind of computer you're at, the image menu might have blinked at you. And that's because Command L lives here. Image, adjustments, levels. So Command L means levels of dark, medium, and light. Command L or Control L. All right, I want you to notice something with me. When this opens up, there's a white triangle, a gray triangle, and a black one. Now what I'd like for you to do is take the dark one and drag it to the right. Now notice that your picture is getting darker. Also, the midterm slider, the gray one, moved over. I want you then to switch to the right side triangle and move it inward. This one you're going to move to the left. Now your lights are getting lighter and the midtone slider is moving. Now what's going on here is the midtone slider tries to stay right in the middle. If we ever want to adjust it, we make sure to do it last. It slides around by itself otherwise. So then you take the middle slider and move it either left to lighten the midtones or right to darken the midtones. Now, I'm going to ask you to click cancel for a minute. This was the original, and if you ask me, it's kind of milky and kind of boring. I want to do levels more seriously now that I've introduced it. We canceled, so it's going to remind ourselves what the original looks like. I want to darken the darks for sure. So let's do Command L. Now, what is this though? This little mountain range here is showing me that this image has a lot of midtones and a fair amount of darks, but less light. And the picture bears that out. The trees in the back are flat out black and there's a lot of them. There's a bunch of dark shadow, right? All right, that's interesting, but it's not critical. So here's the rules. Start with blacks most of the time. That works well. To make darks darker, take the dark slider and move it to the right. Don't go crazy because it's going to look like, you know, the apocalypse and then deep nighttime. And it's also going to distort the lights. You don't want to distort them. So you just want to make sure that they look what I call juicy. A little bit of drama never hurt. Now I want to lighten the lights because there's not a lot of lights. I'm a little worried though because this little bit here is very light and I don't want to blast it too much. I'm going to go to the right side triangle. Now here's the rules for all three triangles. To the right makes that range darker. To the left makes that range lighter. So I'm going to take the left range, the light range, this one, and move it to the left to make it even lighter. Now again, if you go crazy with it, it starts looking like the bomb was dropped. So you really want to be careful. You don't want it to start looking like that. You just want it to feel fresh. So we added some darks, we added some lights. Well, now we're free to try the midtones, and I honestly don't know which way I want it to go. That's everything that's not that light or not that dark. It's in the middle. So if it goes to the left, the midtones are going to get lighter. If it goes to the right, they're going to get darker. So if I go to the left, they're lighter, it's fresher, right? I could put my little kids on stage playing a school play. If I move to the right, it gets darker and it's a little bit more grave. You know, maybe it's Shakespeare this time, it's Hamlet. I don't know. Right now I'm going to ask you to put it where it looks good to you, where it just feels the way you do, and then click OK. I want to introduce you to the best way to see if that really worked, right? And I want to introduce you to the history palette. Could you join me? Could everyone go to the window menu up top? And it's in alphabetical order, window menu. I'd like you to find the one that says history. Not this one, not histogram, history. The history palette keeps a list of the last 20 steps, roughly. And if you don't like any of them, you could click back, back, back. So this is the beginning. But I like the cropping. And this is here levels. So you could compare the one just before levels. It looked okay, but kind of boring, to the one with levels. Now, I like my new one much more. It's got some drama to it. It's a more exciting picture. So I'm going to often leave the history palette out so that I could use this feature. It also has a double arrow here to help you put it away. And you'll notice this little button here opens it, closes it, like that, this little button. Or you can just keep going to the window menu to turn it off, turn it back on. What would happen if you hated it? So if you hated it, you'd go back a step, right? And then try levels again and do it differently. So it gives you a lot of freedom. If you go back, you lose everything that follows. So if you go back 3 steps, you're going to lose all 3 if you continue to work. So you can click around first before you commit. But as soon as you make a move, you've committed. How did levels treat you guys? All right? Do you feel like your pictures look better?
Yeah.
So look, I want to say something to you. I believe that if you do this on every photo, your eyes will get clearer every single time. By the time you hit 100 photos, you're going to have laser vision. Other people are going to look at photos and say, oh, it's good. And you can be like, no, it isn't. So, you know, I was very proud of my time in news because the thing that I did best for them was make their photos look great. And they had terrible photographers. They're the worst photographers. So when my newspaper was called the Earth Times, we were friends with the New York Times. And the New York Times said once that the Earth Times photos were as good as theirs. And I was hero for one day. Yeah, because everybody knew it wasn't true. We had the worst photographers ever. So I had to learn a lot of Photoshop. All right, anyway. Okay, what I want to do though is I want to change the color of the back of the stage. And why do I want to do that? Well, one, we're going to put a big yellow duck on that stage pretty soon, right? And, you know, frankly, that's weird and fun and a little surreal. But also the theater paints the back wall, or they have backdrops that they just wheel in and change it, right? You know, if you ever go to the theater. So what we're going to do is just digitally change the back wall. So here's the way I want to do it. I want to find a tool that's going to let us select just the back wall. And I'd like to introduce you to this tool. Now this here is a lasso, like a cowboy's lasso. If you hit L, it'll take you to that group, even if you're in the wrong tool. You might have to press on the current lasso and keep your mouse down because this is the regular lasso. It's kind of hard to use. This is the polygon lasso, which makes straight lines. It's the one we want. And this is the magnetic lasso. We're going to try the others. Definitely at least 2 of them. But this time I want the polygon lasso tool. Polygonal. Hey, are you able to find that tool? You know, I've been having troubles, like I work at 2 schools and in a bunch of different subjects. And everyone's settings are different. They can't always find the tools. That's a little harder than working in the lab. So I'm just going to take a little detour. A lot of these tools you have to press on because they're hiding neighbors. We want the polygon lasso. But the other thing that might be helpful to us is this. I want to take a quick look under Window Menu, Workspace. I'm in a workspace now called Essentials. There are other workspaces which open up different palettes and arrange the screen differently. If you want to be like mine, I would try this. Window Menu, Workspace, and see if Essentials is checked. That might make the class a little easier. So here's the way this tool works. If I choose a part of the black back wall and click once, I could then not press, just pull my finger or my mouse over and click again. Whenever I want, I'm going to click to make a straight line selection. When I want to close it, I could just double click. I don't actually have to go all the way back up there. and it'll close it. If yours is terrible, do Command D to deselect, or Control D. It's a big player in this program, and try it again. One click to get started, another click, and one for each corner. Now look, to be honest with you, if we had a lot of time, we might zoom way in there and pick just exactly what part do we want. Do I want the wood on the outside or not? I'm going to just ask you to make that decision for yourself right now. Now, the next thing is, how do we give it a color? So bear with me. One of the themes today is what you could do with an image, but really, to be thorough, what you could do with a layer. We have one layer currently, which is just the stage, and we corrected its tonal range, lights and darks and midtones. A great first step. Now we're choosing part of it that we want to change the color of. We could have changed the whole layer, the color, but we only want the back wall to look like it's painted. So we selected it. Now I want you to try something else. I love shortcuts, so I'm going to use Command U or Control U. But if you hate shortcuts, go to the image menu to adjustments. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to teach lives here. Here's levels. This is hue saturation. Command U for hue saturation. And that basically means color and how colorful. Let's click it. So I want to say a little bit about this particular very cool dialog box. If you drag the U slider over, the color will change. Try it. It just doesn't change the way you expect. So the first thing I want to say that's good, I want to say one good thing and one bad thing. The good thing is I can still see all the wood. The shadows and the highlights are all there. It's not like I'm blocking it with a purple square. It's tinting it like sunglasses would. So that's the good thing. The bad thing is it's not tinting it to the color that I see on the U slider. I'm pointing at blue, but this looks kind of yellow. So let me stop for a minute while I make a point about that. Let's say that was a rainbow wall already, and I wanted to tint it all blue, right? Well, yellow in a rainbow would start turning green because you add blue to it, it turns green. You know, red would start turning purple because you add blue to red, you get purple. So the reason that slider is inaccurate is it's actually shifting whatever color it sees around the wheel in the direction you asked for, but the results are kind of hard to predict. There is a way, though, to say forget the original color completely, right? Just keep the lights and darks so it'll still look like wood, but just give me the color I want. This is like tinting a black and white picture. And here's how you do it. If you want all of it to throw the original color out, just give you the new one. Click this little feature off on the right. It says colorize. Click it. Now you could literally point at the color that you want. So I'm going to ask you to pick a color. Remember, your duck's yellow. So I don't know if that gives you any kind of hunch about what you want or not. You could just wing it. It's really up to you. Now, if you'd like that color to be brighter, I don't really mean that actually, but the real word is saturated, just more intense. Take the saturation slider. If you go all the way to the right, that's so intense it looks a little psychedelic, a little over the top. But if you go all the way to the left, it's desaturated, you're back to black and white again. So you want to find how much color you want. You pick the color, now you're picking how much. You know, we could use the lightness slider also, you know, but I'm not really fond of it because it doesn't really respect the darks and lights, and I might start losing the wood. So I'm going to put it back in the middle and show you a better way. So you made a selection, you picked your own, you chose to use colorize, I mean throw out the original color. Then you pick yours, You pick your saturation, and we're going to kind of ignore the lightness slider. You could set it to 0 if you've been messing with it, and click OK. Now, just for the record, this is the way my history palette looks. So here's the way it looked without the color. I'm backing all the way up here, right? So I've been through a lot already. I'm going to come back down here, though. Put it away. Now, if you think that you'd like to change the tones in there again, you can do Command L like you did before. But here's the difference. The first time you did Command L, nothing was selected. So you change the levels, you change the tones on the entire photograph. But now you selected one part, and you could only work in that one part. So if I wanted to darken the shadows in it, I would do that. If I wanted to lighten the lights in it, I would do that. At that point, I might decide what I want about the midtones, and there's a lot of midtone in here. So left would be lighter midtones, right would be darker midtones. So it depends what you want. How much drama, how much color, what are you after? And then you click OK. Now, if you're ready to leave that selection, right, we're going to deselect, but I want to warn you, in the more advanced territory, sometimes you want to save a selection, and that basically means save that shape, because you think, I might want to change my mind later, and it's going to be hard to line up that exact box twice. But for right now, I'm going to act on faith and say we should deselect it, and we're going to move on because I want to bring the duck in. So to deselect is Command D, but I do want to show you the select menu. Here, select all. A lot of you guys know that one. Command A. Here's deselect, Command D. This one here means select the opposite. So I just selected the outside. Hey, you know what? If you want to try that, you can select inverse. I'm just going to quickly, since it showed up, I want to show you something. With select inverse, I could control the color of the rest of it. That's kind of cool. Well, I'm not feeling it right now, so I'm gonna cancel. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Joseph.
So how would you like save the shape, and what would it be?
Jerson, do you have a little Photoshop experience from before? Just curious.
Yeah, a little bit,
A little
but
bit?
yeah,
Other
I
people
have
do.
from my phone. I have.
Yeah, I see you're on the move. But I'm going to answer his question because it's a good one. You know, there's a number of ways to do it. So I'm a little shy of showing you my favorite way. I want to see, let me just back up a minute. I want to Command Z bit. So this was the original selection that I had. I'm going to do select menu right now. Just give me a minute because I'm trying to find a way a little bit better than my own. So here's the select menu. Here's save selection. It's going to ask me if I want to name it, right? So I'm going to call it back wall. We click OK. So let's say we deselect Command D, and maybe in an hour or two, you want to come back and change the color again or something else. You would go back to the select menu. And this time I'm going to choose load selection.
Okay.
And it'll give me a whole list if I keep saving them. So that's pretty
Okay.
cool. And there it
Okay,
goes.
gotcha.
Yeah, it was a good question. Very good question. So we're about to get the duck. But before we do that, does anybody else have a question? Questions are good. No? How you liking Photoshop so far? It's cool as it gets. I gotta tell you, Photoshop.
Getting used to it again.
You know, it's funny. It is true. Like if you know Photoshop and then you don't use it for a year or two, you kind of got to start over. The program's about 23 years old, I'm guessing, at this stage. So some of you guys are 23. Some of you guys are younger than Photoshop.
Honestly, I'm more used to drawing on my tablet than using Photoshop.
Well, you know, I want to say something about that. Like, I love to draw, you know, and I draw in a variety of different ways and in different programs. For those of you who wonder why he brought that up, Photoshop is a very popular painting program. I call it a painting program because it focuses on color. If one likes to draw properly and likes lines, they'd probably be better learning Adobe Illustrator. But the two of them are very popular amongst people who like to draw. But Photoshop's claim to fame begins with photographs. So anyway, let's move on. So I want you to leave this the way that it is. And then I'd like you to do File Menu Open.
Professor, I have a question.
Oh yeah, sure. You first.
So I can see like I can see like at when you where you highlighted the area green, I can see like there's like some like remaining like colors that are like from the original picture. Is it possible to zoom in and like get a more accurate selection?
You guys ask great questions. So it just means I have to make my lesson a little shorter so I have room for these great questions. But I happen to have a great answer for you. There's a lot of ways to zoom in and out. But if you're about detail, you want to do some real surgery, that happens to be an excellent tool that's easy to use and perfect. Let's try it out. Could everybody join me on this one? Can you go to the window menu? This is an alphabetical order I keep saying, so go down to N. You want the one called Navigator. I wish every program had this feature. Here's my Navigator. The Navigator has a slider in the middle. And if you slide to the right, you're zooming in. But what's even better about it is it shows you a red box around the area you're currently zoomed in on. So you could press that box and say, oh, I just want to check out the roof. No, actually, I want to look at the floor. So it winds up not only being a way to zoom, but to know where you're zoomed and to be able to move around. So if I'm doing something very detailed, I'll zoom in quite a lot, for example, and I may follow the whole edge. To be honest with you, I was thinking of showing you this before we painted the wall, because I knew little things like this were going to bother me later. But I was trying to save some time, and you didn't let me. But this way I could actually come along. So really the best time to do this probably would have been when we made the selection and before we started working on it. Because right now it's going to be a little hard to go in there and perfect it.
There's also like a little loop on the left side that you can also zoom in and out.
Yes,
Right?
that's called the magnifying glass. That's true. The magnifying glass here is way down here. So I'm going to do Command 0, by the way. That means fit back on the screen. So Command 0 is a great shortcut, fit on the screen, which they just call the same, fit on screen. Here it is. But that's Command 0. But he's talking about the magnifying glass. That works by just dragging in the area that you're interested in. That's also very, very good. And I like them both. I use Command 0 either way to get back. The only thing about the Navigator that I like is that you could see exactly the part you're on and choose in detail where you might want to go afterwards. So they're both good methods.
Oh, right. True.
You know, hey, that's a good one though. I like the magnifying glass. Kevin, did that give you what you needed?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Excellent, great. All right, so I'm going to do Command 0 to see the whole thing. Oops. There we go. And I want to open the duck. So let's do File Menu, Open. Now, with some luck, it already went to the correct folder because you've used the folder before. In Photoshop's like that. It remembers the last folder that you used. If it didn't, find where you put your folder. Did you leave it on the desktop? Did you put it in some shortcut you might have? Or did you go to Documents? Mine is on the desktop, so I'm going here. Finding Class 7 assets, double-clicking it. You want Ducky. And click Open. So I want to say a few things about the duck. One, you could tell it's quite a bit smaller. You have your rulers on. We could check image size to see how big it is. But right here, I could see it's 500 pixels wide. If I wanted to be exact, I'd go back to the image menu. Remember, we did this with the stage, image size. I don't always come here to change sizes. Sometimes I come just to look. And some interesting stuff. This is already at the right resolution, and it's only 500 pixels wide. So I want to say why that's okay with me. You remember how you made the stage 1000 pixels wide? So that means that duck is half the size of this photograph right now. That's plenty big. Anyway, we'll find out how big it is once we bring it in, but we're not quite ready. The question is, what's the best way to select the duck? Because I don't want to take the white stuff in. I just want the duck. I want to introduce you to the idea of selecting by color. You tried a lasso, that's when you select yourself, right? We used the polygon lasso and selected the back wall. Thing is, that would be really hard with the duck. I'd rather select by color. There's two ways, and for a change, I'm going to show you the way I don't like. So it's more important when I show you the good way. So here's the deal. On the toolbar, I'm looking for the magic wand and it's hiding. I think it's hiding underneath this one called spot healing. I'm going to press on it and I'm wrong. So let me back up here. They move it around. Oh, there it is. It's right in front of me. So that's W. You might see this tool, which is a new tool, but it's really cool. We might come back to it. But I'd like you to press on this tool and find this one called Magic Wand. So if you can't find even the ballpark, right? Let's say you're way down here, press W. It gets you to the right set. And then press that tool. We want Magic Wand. Okay. So the Magic Wand lets you click on a color and it goes down to the pixel. Give me a minute here. I want to show you something. These are pixels. Just like a mosaic. Photoshop literally sees tiny tiles called pixels. If I click with the magic wand, it recognizes that pixel and selects everything like it. So I don't really want to get down to that level. I would like you to take the magic wand and I'd like you to click about here because I want to make a point.
I don't see a magic wand.
Wand, really? Did you, when you press W, do you see any of these tools?
Yeah, I see all of them, but like it's a different symbol between the crop and the weird thing.
So you do see three tools there?
I
When you
have it like
press
all
on
the tools are the same, but the magic wand.
The magic wand looks different than mine? When you bring the mouse over it, does it say magic wand?
It's like a square with a little cursor on it.
Are you seeing this one?
Yeah.
All right, that's not the one. When you press on it, do you see this one and this one? Folks, this is gonna just take a minute. I need to see this, so
Are you right clicking it?
I feel like I can't
it's a good question.
like open. Maybe it's because it's remote and I can't be like super precise.
Ah, maybe that. Oh yeah, that's right. And what's your computer? Is it Windows or Mac?
Mine is a Mac, and so
And you're using Windows. So guys, listen, everybody, because we're all gonna have to deal with this pretty soon. Anne has a Mac, got brave. The Adobe thing was harassing her. So she went remote to the school lab. So her Mac has a window in it running Windows.
But so yeah, the keyboard is different, and I have a French keyboard, so it's even worse.
Oh my God.
But I'm getting. I got it.
You found it?
Yeah. No, it's fine. It's working pretty well. It's just I can't open this little menu where I can choose like these three tools. Is there a shortcut or anything?
Well, W should take you to the set of tools. Just the
Well,
letter
yeah, it
W.
takes me to the set, but it doesn't like open. Like it takes me to the square with the little cursor, but not the.
Yeah, it would be the same for me. Whichever one's on top, if you press W, it goes to that one. But then you have to press it to see the ones it's hiding. Hey, could you screen share for me?
I got it.
You
I
got
got
it already? Okay.
All good.
Okay. So Guys, listen, this is, this is the 21st century. All right, so again, with the magic wand, click here. Now, it didn't select the whole duck, and I want to point out a couple of...
You're not sharing. Your
Oh,
screen.
I'm sorry. Okay, give me a second. I was trying to be clever, but that never works. Here we go.
It's all about the effort.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. All right, let me get this where we need it. All right, here we go. So we found the magic wand. We clicked about here on the duck's forehead, and we're not seeing the selection we'd like. And I want to draw your attention to something. When you click the magic wand, a bunch of options show up along the top of Photoshop. Right? One of them says tolerance. Now, what I want you to do is take that number, tolerance, and I want you to set it to 40. Then Command D to deselect and click on his forehead again. It selected quite a bit more. Now, each time I change that number, here's 80, I deselect, Command D, and I try it again. So what's going on? When you click, it's looking at the one pixel and says, oh, okay, so you want color like this one, right? Now, at a low tolerance, it will only select colors very similar. If you're more tolerant, right, higher tolerance, it'll select yellow nearby. So you click lemon yellow. Well, at a high tolerance, it might get the banana also, but at a low tolerance, it would not. So in this case, I'm still not getting the shadows because they're completely different. So even though this would work a little, this is what it would look like. So you don't want to do this. I left out the shadows, the beak, the eyes. There's got to be a better way. So the magic wand is cool, but in this case, we're going to use it in a much smarter way. Can you click the white? Now, when you click the white, it's selecting the whole background, right? And eventually I want to select inverse, but I have one problem. It also got the whites of its eyes. So I want to ask you, yours didn't. So I'm going to ask you, am I the only one where it selected the whites of his eyes? I think I'm the only one because I messed with the features. I want to show you what caused it. The options up top have this weird word, contiguous. Contiguous? Contiguous means only pixels that touch. So that basically means when I click on white now, it's not going to do the pupils because they're not touching the rest of the white. You guys had this on. So I just want to say, it selects by color, not line, which is cool. The higher the tolerance, the more generous it is, right? So if it's a flat blue sky, maybe a low tolerance is fine. But sometimes the sky is lighter on one end and darker on the other, you're going to need a higher tolerance. If you don't want the guy with the blue shirt, just the blue sky, make sure contiguous is on. So only the pixels of that color that touch will be selected. Now the problem is, we're still not done. Because even if I move this into the other image, I got the white, which isn't what I want. So I think some of you already figured this out. Once you've got the white selected, do select menu, inverse. That means give me the opposite. Give me 1 second, quickly. It's okay to interrupt me if anyone needs me. I'm teaching, but they're nice people.
And he just froze. Amen, boys. Boys and girls.
Well, boys, we got the chat to ourselves now.
Can I just say that I couldn't get Photoshop to work, so I'm working in Fire Alpaca.
Wow.
Anything works. Anything works at this point. He'll
I
never
also
know.
couldn't get the duck to load.
Really?
Oh,
way,
Professor's
Ralph.
back.
Hey, we're all coming back right now. The internet got wonky all of a sudden. I just got a notice that says the internet is unstable.
If he was around for a little bit longer, we would have
Look,
bombed the chat.
you know
Sorry, what?
something? The internet could be unstable. I mean, we're used to unstable. We got unstable in the White House. Sorry about that. Oops. Just kidding. Anyway, and the nerve of it is I said that on video yet. I have to calm myself down. All right. Anyway, so once you selected inverse, right, you got the duck, and the duck was too hard to select. The background was easy. It's a great trick. It's one reason why I love photographers who shoot a lot against a flat color. It doesn't have to be white, right? But if the back is flat, I could take their photos out and put them wherever I want without a lot of fuss. All right, all I want you to do is Command C, right? We did that a lot with Sublime, or Control C. If you must, you could use the edit menu, copy. So we all know that that copies to memory. This time it's not code, it's a photo. So what I'd like you to do is go back to the other tab and paste. Now we're not done, right? But we're well off the ground. I want to show you something before we work on the duck. I want you to find your layers. And we haven't used them yet, so I guess we have to open them up. Hang on a second here. That snapped where I don't want it. There we go. Window menu, layers. It looks like mine is out and I'm just not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Mine's over here. I'm going to drag it out where you can see it easily. So again, if you're not seeing it, just go to the window menu. It's all there. Alphabetical order, layers. I want to draw your attention to something. You should be seeing two layers in there right now. One called layer 1 and one called background. Layer 1's got a duck on it and an eye next to it. If you poke that eye in the eye, the duck is gone. I could print it and it'll look like this. I can make a JPEG, it's going to look like this. If I poke them both in the eye, it looks like that. So that wouldn't make much sense. Here I could print just the duck. We want them both. The reason this is so important, though, is anytime we make a decision now, we have to be on the correct layer. So if you're going to work on the stage, you have to go to that lower layer. So you simply click down here and work on the stage. Right now, I want to make sure that you're on the duck layer. If you're on the duck layer, up here, I'd like you to try a trick, Command T. Command T. Now that's T for transform. And my edit menu blinked at me when I did it. So edit menu, free transform, Command T. You use this so much in Photoshop that everybody memorizes it, right? Command T or Control T. Now, if you grab a handle and squeeze, you'll see you're making the duck smaller. Anybody in here who used to use Photoshop in the past, you had to hold down Shift to make sure that the duck doesn't distort. In this, it would look like this. So you want to make sure that wouldn't happen. But now it stays in proportion automatically. So I want you to get it to a size that you like. Drag it down, have it sit it on the floor. And you got a little bit of freedom in here. I'm not sure it'd be fun to have a tiny, tiny duck there. So I'm gonna go with the oversized big duck.
Unless you have a lot of the tiny ones.
That's true. And if we had the time, we only have 15 minutes left, so I want to kind of focus on this guy. The big's going to make it easier. So I want to point out that that duck was big enough for our purpose. Remember, the stage was 4,000 pixels wide, that whole photo. And we made the whole photo 1,000 pixels wide. But there's some background there. So I'm guessing that the stage itself was maybe 600, 700 pixels wide. So the 500 pixel duck was plenty big, right? We couldn't have made it bigger, as I said before, that would have made it blurry, but smaller is fine. So once you've got it to the size you want, you hit return to accept it. If you hated it, right? Let's say you did it and you didn't like what you did, you would click escape. And I've got to tell you, no one ever uses the escape key, so you've maybe never used it. On a Mac, it's usually in the top left. It says ESC on it. Not sure where it is on Windows, escape. It just means get me out of here. You know?
Same.
Right, same, that's good. So anyway, I'm gonna get my duck back down to size. Oops, Command T. I don't need any shortcuts in this version. I'm moving them onto stage. I'm sitting them down there. And I hit return. So he's on his own layer. We could do any kind of tricks. We could change his color. We could do some levels to it. But since I'm running out of time, and I would like to show you at least one more cool thing, at the very least, I want to say something about the bottom of the duck. And since my navigator's out, I'm going to use it. We want to look down here. So remember, if you'd like to use the navigator also, you can get it from the window menu. Navigator. I'm going to zoom, which now means too many things. We're going to have to change our language soon. And I'm going to bring this red box down so I could see. I think I want to zoom in even more. Okay. Now, my duck is looking pretty good. It's sort of working fairly well with the dark shadow in the back of the stage, but it isn't perfect. I wish there was more dark here. The bottom of that duck is actually a very round kind of thing, and we'd see some shadow even in front of it. And what's the best way to darken something so it looks like a shadow? Okay, this is going to be a little bit harder, right? Not much harder. If I want to make a shadow for the duck, that shadow is falling on the stage, right? So it's really the floor of the stage that I need to darken. So I'm going to darken the floor of the stage so it looks like shadow. And to do that, I have to make sure I'm on the background layer, the lower layer. Please choose the lower layer because we're going to use this wood down here and make it a little darker underneath the duck. So I'm on the background layer. How do you darken pixels? I want to introduce you to this tool here that looks a little bit like this symbol. All right, it uses the letter O to help you find it. So if you're having a hard time finding it, hit O. And if you're not seeing it, press whatever tool you do see. It's part of the set, you know, like the magic wand was. The dodge tool looks like a lollipop, and the sponge tool, well, looks like a sponge. I want this one called the burn tool. Now, the burn tool takes some thought. So again, that was O that helped me find it, O. And what it does is it paints darkness. You need pixels to work on, so you can't paint on glass. You can paint on a wooden floor or on a duck, right? But it needs some options, and I want to show them to you. So I got the burn tool, and on the top of the screen, we see its options. Now, we saw that with a few tools already. So most tools have options that show up when you pick the tool. Now, you'll notice when you take the burn tool, there's something called range. Let's see what the range is. Highlights, midtones, and shadows. You know what? That's the same range as levels, right? Levels had 3 triangles, one for highlights, right? The dark one was for shadows and the one in the middle. The difference is this tool, you pick the range you want to work on. It will always darken things, so it's not like you go right to shadows. The question is the wood a midtone? I'm going to say it is. Now I want to tell you why that matters. I'm on the duck layer for a second. I want to show you something. This won't darken because the duck is too light. It's not a midtone. But if I go to the background layer, that does darken because the wood is a midtone. The reason that happens is this. There's times when you just want to darken the light thing and tell it to please ignore everything nearby. I don't want to have to select this little part. Just ignore the rest. So we're telling it what to work on, and in a way, telling it what to ignore. So if this looks like, this is either midtone or shadow, there's no chance you could see that wood as a highlight. So I'm trying it on midtone first, range midtone, exposure set to 50. That's just like the knob on your oven or on your toaster. How hot do you want to get? I'm going to leave it at 50. Now, I want to mention something about this circle you're seeing. Yours might be too small. Give me a second there. If you'd like to make it bigger, I'd like you to find the bracket keys next to the letter P. Don't use Command or Control. Don't use Option or Alt. Don't use Shift. Just the right bracket means bigger brush. Left bracket means smaller brush. So look how big my brush is. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to darken. I'm ignoring the duck for two reasons. One, it's too light, and it's on a different layer. But if I get dark enough, it stops working because I set it to midtones. If I want it even darker, I'll have to come up here and say, now it's okay, work on my shadows, because I want my shadows to be even darker. So I changed it to shadows, and I'm coming down here again. And I'm darkening it so it looks like it's blocking some light on the floor. And that looks a lot better to me. I'm going to accept it. So the burn tool takes a little bit more work, right? But I got to say, like, if you want someone to look like they haven't slept, you're going to burn here and you're going to burn here. I have fairly light skin, you know, so you might have to set that tool to highlights. In the summer, I'm darker. You might have to set it to midtones. I don't know. And if your friend is much darker than you, you might have to go all the way to shadows. I've worked on photos of people where some of them were from Northern Europe. They were white like sheets. Others were from the center of the darkest part of Africa, and they're buddies in this newspaper I worked at, this political newspaper. I couldn't use levels. Their skin tones were so different, I had to go to each person to perfect the photo. Work with their skin color and figure it out from there. It was a fun challenge. How'd the shadow go under your duck? All right?
Yeah.
So I want to just I'm taking a quick look at these notes that I keep next to me. We did great. We covered just about everything that I had in store for today. So I want to wrap it up with just a couple last thoughts, a couple last steps.
Sorry, Professor.
Yes.
I have a question is that after we do this, how can I save it?
That's what I'm about to do. So Xu Ying, one of the signs of a brilliant student is a student who goes right to the next logical step. Yeah, how do we save it? I want to double that. I want to show you how to save it to work on it later, like I was asked, but also how would I save it for the internet? So first off, I want you to notice that we've been working on the document called Stage in Park. We left Duck behind because we copied it into Stage in Park. So do I really want to save it as Stage in Park? No. I'd like to give it a different name. If I save it with a different name, that Stage in Park photo, which was a JPEG, is safe. So I want to save it with a different name. Could everybody join me? Go to the File menu and choose Save As. No, we had this conversation briefly, but it means more now. Save As means save it as a new document. It's going to stay open, but it's going to see itself as brand new. Whatever you saved prior, it's like you put it away in the folder. As soon as you do Save As, this is a new document. So I'm going to call this one Stage with Duck. And if you look at the bottom, it says Format Photoshop. So I'm going to actually save it as stage with duck dot PSD. Now I need to say a couple quick words. PSD means Photoshop document. Original Photoshop files always end in .psd. So we work with them. Now I want to say one more thing. Layers only exist in a PSD for photos. So JPEGs don't have layers. GIF doesn't have layers. PNG, if you ever heard of it, is another internet format. Doesn't have layers. So as soon as you made layers, next time you save it, it's going to use Save As anyway to show you that you're making a Photoshop document. So we're doing two things with Save As. We're giving it a better name, and we're taking notice that it's a Photoshop document. You could save it into today's folder or anywhere that you want, and then click Save. It asks you questions that don't matter afterwards. Format options, just click OK. I've never used that option for anything. So now in my folder, there is the new one, the PSD. Now I want to answer Shu Ying quickly. That basically means you could quit Photoshop, you could shut off your computer, you could come back next month, find that folder, double click this one. It will open in Photoshop for you if you have Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop at that point, it will refuse, right? It'll only open in Photoshop. So that's pretty cool. But what if you wanted to save a safe picture that anybody could open, right? That's one reason we all like JPEG so much. Anybody could open a JPEG. You know, they could drag it into the browser and see it in Chrome. They could open up in Photos, somebody mentioned. It could open up in picture viewers of all sorts. So let's make a JPEG. There's a lot of ways to make a JPEG, but one of the easiest that I use a lot is to go back to Save As again. So let's go File menu, Save As. You have the Photoshop document. It's nice and safe. We're going back to the File menu. And, I left Photoshop. I got to click back in Photoshop. There we go. Now I'm going to do File menu, Save As. I like the name, but I want a JPEG. So it's going to be stagewithduck.jpg. The only way to do that is to come down to Format. So I want to say a common use for Save As is to change formats. Photoshop's good for people who have it. For everybody else, let's click here and make a JPEG. Not these, just JPEG. You could see Photoshop's famous because it can make a lot of different kinds of file types. JPEG's probably best for us, JPEG. You could see it changed the name, at least on a Mac. On Windows, you'd have to turn on extensions, which I didn't go over today. I would like to say a quick word about that. But for right now, here it's showing me that now I'm going to have Stage with Duck PSD in the folder, and I'm just adding JPEG. Save. It's asking me, do I want a large file? If I'm going to put it on the internet, I'll generally set it in the middle. It'll be smaller file and should look pretty good. Click OK. If you look in your folder now, you got choices. If I wanted to go on a website and play with the image tag, IMG, I'd use this one. If I wanted to add more stuff to the original, I'd use this one. The parts I don't need anymore. Anybody have any questions about saving and why I save twice? No? Guys, your questions have been really excellent. You know, sometimes teachers get nervous. We're not supposed to, right? We're supposed to make everyone answer questions, but I'll have people ask me stuff like, Ira, which is a better color, yellow or green? And I'm like, but you guys asked just the best questions. I tell you the truth, your question so far, I was actually thinking, should I cover this? And then one of you asked, and I had to cover it. All right, so I want to tell you where we're at right now. This is the stage. We have set the stage. The next few classes are Photoshop. We're going to do other weird things, combining photos, enhancing them to make them more beautiful, saving them in useful formats. And I want to say to you, though, by the way, I already took attendance, so if anyone has to leave, it is 2:40, right? The class is over, right? I often stick around after class, so you're welcome to stay. A couple of you have asked me to, I'm going to. But I just want to say, if I was making an image for a video, I'd probably make a JPEG. If I was making it as a background for an animation, I'd probably make it a JPEG. There are cases where I'd use the PSD because some other programs could read those layers. So there are video programs that will let me open the Photoshop document so I could actually make the duck move. It'll keep my layers there. So I would have to know about that and make that decision in advance. Oh yeah, no, we want to keep the PSD. You know, maybe I'm working for an architect. I don't even know what they use. You know, there's all kinds of formats, and Photoshop's ready for all of them. Does anybody have any parting questions for me? I am going to stick around. Chris needs a hand with Photoshop, and other people may have questions for me.
I have a question.
Yeah, Anne, please.
So where should I save? Because I'm on the remote, I'm on
Right.
the school computer, right? So I can't save it there because it's gonna get
Might
erased.
disappear. So I want to tell you what I know about that. And first off, I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing, because we're going to figure out a lot, and you deserve extra credit for it. But you know, the handout for remote access ended with a lot of advice about saving, but I want to tell you what the gist of it was. Christopher Stein, and I think you could tell by now he's somebody I respect a lot, was saying he thinks it's probably best saving it to the cloud, right? And Adobe gives you some cloud space. So he was saying you could save right to the Adobe cloud space. And his logic was, if you log in on a different computer anywhere, you should be able to get it back.
Okay.
You know, I've never done that. So I was like, that sounds good, but you know, what does it actually mean? So I'm looking at my image now. I'm going to do save as again, just because I want to see, is there a way to do it from here?
It's
Save to
when,
cloud documents.
yeah, when I press save or save as, it asks me if I want to do it on the cloud or on the computer. And I
So
did on the
this-
computer because I was planning on just doing a Dropbox, but there's no Dropbox on the school's computer. I have to like install it. So I guess same, it's not gonna stay there, so it doesn't work.
I know. I mean, you know what he was saying also, you could save it to the desktop on the school's computer.
Yeah.
From there, open up your Dropbox account or your Google Drive account.
Well, yeah. So I
and then
would, but I
drop
would
it in
have to do
there.
every time. Like I would have to like re-download, or maybe just do it from the like the web window.
Yeah, from the web-based version.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe
Yeah, log into your Google
I like-
Drive. Or,
I like to have my my little folder with everything. So
I know, and this is gonna be another pain in the neck.
We gotta get.
I'm gonna click this because I just want to see it for myself. Cloud document. Really? I'm so tempted to try this. I'm gonna try it. Oh, and it gets a weird extension, PSDC. Wow, this is gonna take some thought. So we're gonna look. I'm gonna be talking to you more, Anne, about this. But right now, this is I would read that handout one more time just to see if there's good advice on it, on the remote access one. But I do believe one of the bits of advice was to save it to the desktop in the lab, and then use your online login to whatever approach you like Google Drive or whatever. And I have to admit, I'm not used to that either, because I have it so set up on my computer. So it's more to work with, and I'm going to have to explore also. Strange semester. So that's what I got for you now. Either of those two approaches, either save to the cloud. See, the reason I don't like the save to the cloud approach for you is you can't get to that cloud from your computer, from your own computer, which is.
Yeah, that's why I'm doing the Dropbox right now.
Right. So
Right.
that would be the way to go. All right, I want to open this up. Chris, I'm only making you wait because it may take a little while. He already warned me in advance about what we're going to try, he and I. Yes, Rose.
I needed to not asking a question, but need to tell you something.
Please do.
Okay, so you remember last class I was able to get Photoshop on my computer?
Yeah.
I've since found out my computer cannot handle Photoshop.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What kind of computer is it?
it's a really good gaming PC, and that's probably why it's meant for gaming, not photo editing.
But no,
and it
those
can't
are
handle
usually
that.
really, the gaming PCs are often really good for Photoshop. So
I
what
know,
happened?
I don't know why it's not. It said that the scratch disk was full and it couldn't handle that. It wouldn't even. It refused to even open the program.
Really? So I want to tell you, scratch disk is so usually when we're talking about running software, we talk a lot about RAM, right? So if you have a lot of RAM, you could open 3 programs at once, you know, Illustrator and Photoshop and Sublime, because you have enough RAM. Most of the programs don't care too much about hard drive space. So I want to say a little bit, you may already know this, but anyone listening might not, so I just want to be complete about this thought. Hard drive is where typically you keep your files. So that means everything closed is in your hard drive. Any program that's not running, any photos that you're not looking at, that's all in the hard drive. But once you open up a program, like Photoshop, it's in RAM. You open up a photograph, it's in RAM. So we need a lot of RAM. But strangely, Photoshop also needs a lot of hard drive space just to run. It's a beast of a program, and somehow it uses that empty space almost like RAM. So I've seen at school, usually at the end of the semester, scratch disk is full. It's a weird term, scratch disk. It really just means there's no room on the hard drive, and Photoshop needs more room. So the first thing I'd do if I were you is I would check to see if your hard drive is really full. You know, is there a couple of gigabytes of empty space, or is it packed? And then
Apologies,
if it's packed,
doggo.
you know, it's funny. I saw a fellow with his dog. I want Kevin's dog was out earlier. I wanted to ask his name to see if the dog would listen to me. Hey, Spot. You know, it's to see. Sit. See if it would work on Zoom. Be the first time I Zoomed with an animal. But anyway, so that's the first thing I would look for. It could just be that your computer needs a little cleaning, some stuff deleted or stuff moved to an external drive.
I tried deleting as much as I could, did not
Really?
clear up many space.
Really? So the other thing that I'm wondering is, it could be about this feature. Hang on a second. Am I still screen sharing? I am, right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm in Photoshop, and we looked all over. I forgot who it was. Somebody here was having an issue that I wound up fixing, and I was pretty proud of because I was worried for her. And the preferences are almost always under the file menu. So here we go. This time it's under the Photoshop menu, preferences. And a lot of this stuff is either other file handling or performance. Her issue is here, performance. And here it said graphic processor. Strangely, she had one, but I had to turn it off for it to work. So I don't know if her graphic processor was the wrong kind. Mine says that it's Intel, OpenGL, and it likes that, so I leave it on. But I've had other students who turned it off and suddenly everything worked. So I don't know. Also, this here is telling me about the available memory. I'm wondering if yours is looking like it's full. Can you tell me does yours have this little thermometer looking thing?
Hold on. If I go into my files on the PC, yes.
My files. So really, I'm in Photoshop right now, and we wanted the Photoshop preferences, which could be under the Photoshop menu. I do believe today one student found it at the bottom of the edit menu.
I don't think I could get to that since Photoshop is just outright refusing to open.
It's open, period. Wow. So I think we're at a small impasse. So
I might have to do remote access in order to get to Photoshop.
You might have to. Rose, you really seem to be on the ball to me. And we have an expert in the room for remote access. So, but you might want to try that. Let me know how it goes, because it looks like more and more of us are going to have to head over to that, you know, pretty soon. I tried it once, not enough to really be all that comfortable. I was kind of amazed by it, but it looks like I'm going to have to make a date with remote access, try everything so I'm prepared for class. Keep me posted. You know, guys, I just want to say about that is, you know, a lot of teachers just quit during COVID because they just could not deal with the amount of details that were added onto their job. I'm an internet type of guy, so I was sort of interested in the challenge. But I got to say, I've had my doubts. here and there, but it's because it's all new. You know, if we continue to, I really think the entire city is going to have more internet-based classes even after the pandemic, because half of us like it. And I know BMCC is hoping to go 50% physical, 50% online next semester, just to try to ease into some choice. I already agreed to do it online, but we're going to be masters of all these weird problems soon enough. I mean, one thing we're going to need is people to get a list of what they need for a class before it starts. They could choose whether to take it. So Rose, I'm a little sorry to hear that about that. You might want to search your model and see, you know, with the word Photoshop, my whatever, my Dell, my gateway, whatever, will not work with Photoshop CC 2020, and see if anyone said anything about it.
I was able to do today's work in a different program that I have, Fire Alpaca. Today was simple
Really?
enough that today was simple enough that all the tools that were on Photoshop is also on this program.
Really? What's it called again?
Fire Alpaca.
Fire, like a fire, alpaca. So, and it's free.
Yep.
Do you know if it works on Windows and Mac?
Oh yeah, they have downloads for both.
Cool. Yeah, so GIMP is the one that I tried, but I'm sure there's more than one.
This
and
one's.
usually, I think you'll probably be good for all this stuff using that. You know, I have to say.
It's
Photoshop
more
has
of an.
lots-
It's more of an art program than a photo editing program, but it has enough of the tools that I was able to do today.
I like your attitude. You know, where my bigger concern comes in is, so after this, the midterm's going to take like a week. Then audio, which is a program called Audacity. So it's just flat out free. So that should be an easy ride for all of us. But after that, we're going to use 2 more Adobe products. So that's going to probably be a remote access for most of us. You know, unless Adobe decides to help out. And then we'll, you know, they've done that a few times already. But at least for this, sounds like you're covered either way. Keep me posted though, Rose. I want to hear more. So Chris has sort of booked some time with me, but I do have a few minutes. Does anybody else have a question or comment?
Not really. Just wanted to listen.
Yeah, you're welcome to listen. And you know, frankly, I kind of like it because you guys think of things that I don't. Hey, you know, that one person who I helped by turning off their GPU feature? The only reason I know that was in the summer, I had someone who builds computers in the class, and someone had this weird Photoshop problem. And he was like, yeah, there's got to be the GPU, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't even speak this language. You know, like I could drive a car, but don't ask me to fix it. You know?
Oh.
So I
remember that day.
Hey, listen, the reason I know half of what I know is because I teach. There's so many troubles when you have 25 people in a class. You just learn all this stuff that you would never learn sitting by yourself from each other. Okay, so I'm going to ask Chris. Chris, are you there? I see your camera's off. He chose a weird time to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Great. So listen, are you and I going to try to get into that Adobe account again? Because I would like that if you want to.
My question, the thing was, like you said, I could, if I try to get to get remote access, I could get to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, so can we try doing it through the remote access thing?
Together, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could. I mean, again, I'm just going to read the instructions. You know, and you know, if you have to go, don't feel like you're trapped because of this. But she has a little experience. It might be good for anyone who wants to watch to actually see it. So
Well, I'm going to go back to drawing, so I'm going to take off from here.
All right, by all means. So today is Thursday. I'll see you all on Tuesday for more Photoshop.
All right,
You know,
take care then,
photographic
Professor.
adventure. I'm going to stick around with Chris. Anyone
Bye-bye.
who wants to stick around can. Otherwise, I'll see you all. I want to learn more about remote access, so it's good for me. And,
All right, take care.
Otherwise, I'll see the rest of you Tuesday. All right, I'm going to turn off my screen sharing because he's going to turn his on. But I do want to mention what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my own handout and click the link to the, one second here, and click the link to the directions, to the instructions for remote access.
Okay.
So let me just stop recording. Should I? You know what? I'm going to say something to YouTube people. This is office hours, YouTube folks. Feel free to leave if you're seeing me. But if you're curious about remote access, I'm recording it just for that purpose, to see if we could learn anything about it. So I'm going to leave my recording on. Let me just rearrange things a bit. So I am currently looking at my own handout, and I'm getting to the part that talks about remote access, general note. And I'm going to click this PDF. Give me a minute, Chris. I just before you get started,
Yeah.
I just want to organize myself a bit. Can I ask you, are you looking at the instructions also?
Where do I get the instructions?
So you'd have to go to today's handout, or
Okay.
any handout, but today's handout.
Uh-huh.
And you'll see it says general notes or something like that toward the bottom of the first page. It's
Okay.
black.
It's all there at the bottom? Or-
Hang on a second.
Number 3,
Number 3.
at
Thank
the
you.
bottom of the first page.
It says
General
general
notes?
note about
Yeah.
remote access. Do you see a few lines down? There's a link,
Yeah, I'm on it.
right?
Should I
Yeah.
share my screen or?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
All right, great. So let me put this away. This should be interesting. We're using screen sharing to explore remote access. The life gets weirder and weirder. Okay, so you have to get Microsoft Remote Desktop to start. So if you scroll down, you see it says See Devices below. If you go further down, you'll see a blue headline that says Devices. Even further, further, Devices. Now, what kind of computer are you on right now?
A Mac.
On a Mac. So please click the link under Mac OS.
This one.
Yeah, that one. Click that.
Open or?
Does it matter? Yeah, why not? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's open it.
Oh my.
All right. So now it's going to ask you to log into with your Apple ID. Do you have that handy?
Yes.
You're amazing. I always have to look for mine.
I usually just keep it on my phone.
Smart. All right. Let's give that a minute to do its thing. Guess it's running through its whole big database of Apple clients right now to see if you're there. I'm just kind of curious, Chris, is your computer a fast one or a slow one? How is
Not
it in general?
sure. I mean, it's a 2017. Should that mean it's fast?
Yeah, it's
or?
not that old. That's newer than mine.
So it should be kind of fast. I
Yeah,
feel.
it could
I
just
don't
be
know.
on Apple's side, this issue. But like I was saying to Rose, even a 3-year-old computer needs some maintenance now and then. If
Yeah.
there's lots of junk stored, it would slow down the computer. This is definitely taking its time about it. So I'm a little nervous because often if it takes this long, it's not recognizing the account, but you're very sure. That looked promising.
Oh
Nope,
my God.
it did not look promising. I guess you're going to have to look over that username and password and try it again. You can click the get button, the
Wait.
blue get. Yeah, I think you're going to need to just go back to the link on the handout, or right there. That's fine. Click it right there. You and Mac App Store. All right, you want to try that one more time? You're confident in the Apple ID? Be real careful about capital letters and that kind of thing.
Oh,
That's
Okay.
weird. It doesn't even look like it's the wrong password. It's like a different issue.
Let's see. We're going to run through the entire thing again. So this is a whole different problem. You can't get into the App Store at all,
yeah.
which are you super confident about the Apple ID and the password?
Yeah, it's the same
are?
exact one I have that I used all the time.
So you often have to go into the App Store?
I mean, I don't really use the App Store. It's mainly on my phone and iPad. I don't really use it on the computer.
I see. Like for music and stuff.
Yeah.
That's about the only time I use it. No, this, wow.
Should I try it on like Chrome or something? Or
Well,
not work?
I think it's going to have to go to the App Store to download it, really, to tell you the truth. So I'm not sure that there's going to be any workaround other than calling Apple and trying to find out why you can't get into the App Store. You know what I mean? Because like you're not, it's not letting you download it at all. So that's confusing. Can you click cancel for a minute?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's just want to see it. You're definitely looking at the right item. You know, it says Microsoft Remote Desktop for Mac. So it's not that. And there's no other way to get it that I know of, but you're going to need this part or we can't move forward. So, I mean, if you have an idea, then by all means follow it up. I'll join you. Can I ask you about something? Do you notice on the left it says updates on that gray bar and it says 6 right there? I wonder if it wants to update itself. So I see there are a bunch of things here that want to update. I'm curious whether they would actually work or whether it's going to ask you for an ID and a password also.
It's funny though, because I don't use half of these stuff.
Really? Do you use any of them?
No.
None of these, right? So you probably don't want to test it.
Yeah.
But, you know, if one of these seemed, you know, not troublesome to you, you could try it out, you know, just pick one, you know, and click update just to see if it works, because then we'll know if there's something wrong with your account. You could always delete it later.
Yeah, I'll just do this one.
Well, let's see if it takes your password for this or not. So listen, this is the advice just about anyone would give you at this stage, you know, and it's not always satisfying.
Yeah.
If you're sure of the Apple ID, I would change the password, you know, and that, yes, you might have to use it elsewhere, you know, if your music doesn't play or something like that. But I mean, you're an Apple client. There's no reason why they would turn you off. So the only thing that I can imagine is that the ID and password are not working. You know, so that would, if it was mine, that's what I would actually do. I would try to change the password. You know, it has that blue part that says, because we won't be able to use remote access without this app made by Microsoft. By the way, I did this part on my own computer. So
Try to so go to you can cancel this, I guess. And at the bottom left, there's your name, right? Click on that.
that's a good
And
idea.
try to click view information on the top, yeah. And it's gonna ask for it again. But at least we can figure out if it's like a password issue or if it's like accessing the Apple issue.
All right, that's a good idea. That's a great idea.
I think you might have left the.
It'll work.
It's like something's happening.
Because it disappeared.
Yeah, it's weird. Let me see. I'm gonna do the same and see what happens for me.
Could it be because there's no credit card on file, even though it's a free element? That would be weird.
No, I don't think so. So it's this time you like it's probably not a password issue. It's really just Apple.
Right.
It looks like it's the right password because you
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to get in if it was the wrong password. So
That's
are
a
you
really
sure you
good
typed
point.
in the same password this whole time? If you're
Yeah.
sure,
One.
it's Apple, there's nothing we can really do about it.
Yeah, you might have to actually physically call Apple on the phone.
Should I try again? Just in case? Or
I don't see how anything changed, but you know, sure, of course you can.
What you can do is like copy your password and then just paste it on the other thing just to make sure. Oh, did that work?
I think so.
Hey,
You're in, right?
what? What?
Oh, good.
Okay. So either that password was wrong and you thought it was right, or Apple just woke up, which is possible. That it's just that. So we're gonna let that load and then you're gonna open it.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but it worked. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great idea though, having him look in the account like that. Not now. I would definitely click not now. I would like our experience to be better. All right. Yeah, we definitely want to give it access. Absolutely, yes. Just okay. By the way, it's not going to run access when you don't open it. So no one's going to be peeking anywhere, right?
So now you gotta go to
the directions again, right?
Yeah, you gotta go back to the instructions.
All right. So back in the instructions, it's going to ask you to find the appropriate URL. So that's really just a link, right, to the list of computers. So I just want to mention something about that to you guys that are here. There's this link that I included on this list, this blue one. So you don't really have to go looking for links. This is the only link from my classes that gives us what we want.
You can
So,
use that, yeah.
So I would just click that one. I rewrote the steps last week to make them simpler for my class. So
I didn't even add a PC. I don't know. I'm not sure what that is. You can just click on the link on the instructions, and it's going to take you to a list of computers. The number, I can't see. It's number 2, I think. Number 2A.
2A?
Yeah, the blue link.
This one?
Yeah. Click on it. It's going to take you to a list of computers, and you just click connect on any of them.
Okay. Just anyone?
Whichever you like. These are all the computers in the lab. Then you download that. And then you can just click on the thing that opened up at the bottom left. Yeah. Now you got to put your BMCC email address and your password. And then it's going to take you to to the computer. Should take you to the remote access. So it should be just your first name dot last name at stu.bmcc.cuny.edu.
So this one wants his BMCC email address
Yeah.
or the CUNY, not the CUNY first login.
Yeah. I think that's your login, your CUNY login that you're putting on right now. I don't think there's a number on your BMCC address.
Hold on, I think I got it. 12 at
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you're putting your CUNY one and you need your BMCC one. I mean, we can try. What does it say in the instructions?
You know, I'm looking at the instructions right now and it doesn't even mention what password to use.
Put in your BMCC username and password. I mean, I guess we can try, but I put my BMCC email address,
All right.
but hopefully it will work.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let's try this one out. Let's just see. I guess we'll.
the BMCC one is the same one I used to log into CUNY, right? Or
No, there's two different
The
email
one you
addresses.
use to, like, I don't know, it's the one I use to email teachers and everything. It should be your first name dot your last name at stu.bmcc.cuny.edu.
Chris,
then
why don't you just try that? Just type it out. Chris.Latchman.
You don't need, yeah, the email address, you don't need to like know it by heart.
Unless there's two people with the same name, then they number them.
Yeah.
So @ symbol. STU. Right, it's stu.bmcc.cuny.
Yeah. Or CUNY BMCC, no, BMCC CUNY, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's stu.bmcc.cuny.edu.
Yeah.
I'm not totally sure.
yeah.
Do you know your password though? That
I-
you use?
I don't think I have a email for this though, because I never received them.
But it's the email that's like linked to Blackboard and everything. How do you get your emails? Maybe you linked it to your personal address. That's
Yeah,
what
I think that's what happened.
so you might have to go to like BMCC email and do like forgot my password if you don't remember.
Yeah, you're gonna need your BMCC connection information.
Mm.
Do I wait? So am I supposed to contact the service desk for that, or?
Well, that was that. Well, I suppose you could. But I'm suggesting you get into your email and try to change the password from there, since you know how to get into your email. But not if you're getting it forwarded to Gmail or something, you know?
Yeah, because everything is going to my Gmail. Everything from
Is it?
teachers.
I don't know. I did the same, and I think I had to reset my password because I didn't remember it.
Right.
Here, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I want to give me a.
Should I try my email to see what happens, or?
The service desk might be able to help you, but I want to check. I'm doing a search online for something. There's a link at the service desk to change passwords. So
yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
that's one thing. I just want to see if there's an easier way. I think I would go to the BMCC portal and try it from there. I'm gonna
That's the link. I think that's the link I pasted in the chat. That's the access to the BMCC email. I remember I reset my password, so I know it's possible. I don't remember how I did it.
Right. I have an address for him, but here we go. Let's see. Chris, I just chatted you an address that has the change password feature. So I'm hoping you could find the chat feature right next to the green share screen button. There's a chat button.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that address down there? You could copy and paste that into a browser if you want.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same thing, but the second link I sent is the instructions to reset your password. It's pretty
great.
Like,
it's quick.
Yeah.
All right, I would definitely try hers because she just did it.
The four last digits of your social security number, your CUNY ID, and your birthday, and then you can create a new password.
So what does he click from there where he is? Do you?
I think you click the first link. Try the second one.
Yeah, try the student email login, you mean?
Yeah.
Or,
no, the on the chat I sent two different links.
I see. I bet you it would work from here if he clicked the student email login. It's probably, there we go.
So these are the instructions. So you just have to follow that.
So, I'm going to stop recording because, there's just really too much stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can get a video together somehow for just this purpose. But anyone watching, sorry we didn't get actually to get a video of remote access since there was an obstacle along the way.
Wait, what do I do from here? Just click yes? Or
no, you have to follow the instructions.